the co-star's ego is definitely going to have to take a bump in this new era. But Austin Reaves has sat down with his current day coach, JJ Redick, and he gave great insight to his come-up story, which is very unusual, especially once again, as they always typecast white guys as players who are jump shooters. He didn't necessarily come into the league that way, and he has a very unique underdog story in which we all love to see play out. And not only he has the opportunity to get paid, he has the opportunity to perhaps make multiple finals appearances alongside Luka Doncic and be remembered as perhaps one of the greatest co-stars alongside a mega talent like Luka. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I got to give literally all the praise to my agents. They come in from that morning and was like, look, we have a really good opportunity in LA. They're very interested. If you were to go undrafted on a 2A, for you to get a 2A contract. And so when we got called at 42 with Detroit, that's what they were offering. They've been drafted in 2A. So we knew that we didn't have to press to, hear my name being called. And I feel like that's a testament to, my age. If you would have told me when I was 18, 19 years old that I could hear my name being called in the NBA draft, I'd have jumped on that in a heartbeat. But being a little bit older, kind of understanding situation and time and, the placement of where I was going to go and who I was going to play with, it all kind of, made sense. And, my agents did a tier list, 1 to 5, I think, tier 1 being the best teams that could get me for situational stuff. And LA was at 2. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And, that night obviously sucked because you want to hear your name called. But ultimately, I think we made the right decision.
Isn't that amazing how that works? The better you are to entering into the draft as a top pick, the worse the options you have. And the players that are, second round or late first round or even perhaps undrafted, they're going to have much better opportunities to be on better teams. The league got to do something about that, because I don't think it's a good thing to be consistently being a shitty team and at the top of the draft board every single season.
So there was no pride there. A little like a part of you, even at that age, you're saying you had a nice maturity about you at that time, but you weren't bothered, stressed.
I mean, I was.
You weren't going to hear your name.
Yeah, I was pissed.
Because that's still 18 picks that you've got to sit there.
Nah, for sure. I mean, I was pissed off just because I knew when it comes strictly to basketball that there's no way that there's 60 players better than me. I know we could have got drafted 42. I knew when it come down to it that, I believed in myself. And so, I was sitting there pissed off the whole time that I wasn't picked earlier. But like I said, my agents did a great job of prepping me and basically keeping it, 100 with me, being like, look, you could go up to 32, 30, or you could go undrafted. And we have a situation where you're going to, fit well in jail.
I've been on one lately. I have been. I'm always on one. Stephen A made some comments about Jokic, and I pointed out that we can't always get caught up in the aesthetics. We can't get caught up in hotel lobby all-stars. And I feel like the draft is very much, at times, for some teams, an exercise in hotel lobby all-stars.
That's facts. Even current day stars are hotel lobby all-stars, a.k.a. Zion Williamson. His game doesn't necessarily translate on a winning team. Just him attacking the hoop all the time and not necessarily having a bag of just jump shooting or just even post moves. And unfortunately in the draft also, guys tend to get caught up. And when I say guys, I mean GMs. They tend to get caught up on the verticality, how guys look physically. And I believe it was around the mid 2010s. There was a lot of guys who were kind of the Russell Westbrook archetype, where their skill sets weren't necessarily as high, but they were freakishly athletic. I believe the Phoenix Suns with the 4th overall pick in the mid 2010s. They drafted, I forgot the guy's name. One of you guys in the comments could perhaps remember this guy, but he was the 4th overall pick. He had a couple incidents with the team, and he was out of the league within a couple of years. So, you know, there was a point where the NBA was having players drafted into teams, especially with high lottery picks, and they were just freakishly athletic, but barely any skill set.
You're a random fan sitting in a hotel lobby, an NBA team pulls up, they get off the bus, and you're making judgment calls based on someone's physical makeup, the length of their arms, what does their torso look like, like legitimately.
That's facts.
And we're not actually prioritizing the love of the game, competitive nature, IQ, and can the guy just fucking play basketball?
Exactly. And you've seen it play out with the Knicks star, Jalen Brunson. He's going to be one of many, but this is going to be a typical story being played out. And even some of the draft picks in the past couple of years, guys that are kind of at the end of the draft, like J-Dub out in OKC, he went really quietly to an NBA team that ended up becoming a championship team. And he's the co-star only at age 24, being one of the top defensive players in the league, and also have his team sitting alongside SGA at the top of the Western Conference year in, year out.
Yeah.
And I get really frustrated by it. What gave you the sense of confidence that this plan of attack was going to work out?
I just knew at the end of the day it was going to come down to basketball. You know, you can do all the other stuff. I signed with an agency that didn't have any NBA players. So I took a chance there. I knew that they were going to work and put me in the best position because they want to make it too. But at the end of the day, I knew, like I said, it was going to come down to playing basketball. If I can get on an NBA court around NBA guys, like I know with the IQ of the game, and then, like you said, just the competitive nature, that I'll figure out a way to, you know, make myself stick. And the whole thing going into the draft was, for me, is I didn't play defense. And I went maybe 1-2 practices when I was on my two-way, and I was like, defense is going to get me on the court. And so that was all I did. I played defense as hard as I could, dove on the floor for loose balls, took charges, all that stuff. And, you know, we had a team at that time that nobody liked to do that. And Frank was a defensive guy, and that's what really got my foot in the door.
And also that series with the Memphis Grizzlies, I believe in 2023, that's really what kind of earned his trust, his keep on the Lakers to keep getting minutes.
I read your draft profile today, actually. It was interesting. Well, what was it? What was interesting was that you weren't really known as a shooter. And I think, I'm going to be honest here, being honest, maybe this isn't politically correct, but when you're a white guy, it's like you're a shooter and you can't play defense. That's just the knock
that's
on
a fact.
you. The fact is, you know, you had the ball in your hands a ton at OU your senior year. You played in a ton of pick and rolls. And I'm curious about the adjustment once you get to the NBA and you're playing with Bron, you're playing with AD, you're playing more off the ball, especially that first year. It wasn't really until about, at least, you know, in me watching, what didn't feel like until about halfway through last year, your second season, that you really got to play more out of pick and roll and have the ball in your hands more. So that initial part where you're like trying to figure out how the league works, but also really not being able to play to your strengths.
Yeah, it's tough, but until that was one thing I was really confident in, is, you know, figuring out how to do all the other stuff. And going back to even when I was in high school, my 9th grade year, I played with my brother. My 10th grade year, I played with my brother, and he was the best player on the team. So it wasn't like I was, you know, scoring 25. I was doing all the other stuff. So I was kind of already prepped to do that. I go to Wichita State. I didn't play on the ball. I shot the ball really well there, catch and shoot. I think my freshman year, I shot around 50% from three, and then shot.
Sheesh, you're seeing all the versatility, the way his come up had to happen. He doesn't have the typical LaMelo Ball kind of AAU profile where he's just clouded up on social media. He's getting a lot of praise, a lot of accolades. We're seeing him come from the mud, and this is going to help kind of have that characteristic that's going to help translate into being alongside Luka and making multiple finals runs, as Luka will need him to do quite a few of some of the dirty work things.
Shot like 44 or something like that. So I had shot the ball well before, but then going to OU, the whole change of scenery, style, took a lot of tough off the bounce shots. Didn't make them, obviously, shot bad percentages, but going into the league, I had already kind of done all that, obviously at a lower level. But anytime you can the game and you play with Bron, you're gonna be set up for success. That's what he does, and that's why he's one of the greatest players ever. Is he helps people be good, and that was the main thing. When I walked into the doors my first day, I was like, look, I'm gonna make him respect me and trust me. And that was him and AD. I was like, those are the two things I want to do.
Hey, once again, look at that humility. A lot of it is building a certain kind of character, and we've seen it play out in OKC with J-Dub. Once again, he doesn't have the profile being a highly recruited high school athlete. Even out of college, he went to Santa Clara. The last NBA player to come out of there is Steve Nash. So he always had to go back and be about the grind with no kind of praise, no kind of social media feedback with clout. These are the types of things that make a great wingman, especially in today's league. We don't need the Bradley Beal types that are out in Phoenix and have a generational talent in KD, and also in a way in Devin Booker, and talking about, I want to play for warm weather city. I mean, it is what it is.
When did you feel like you had gained LeBron's trust?
Fully?
Still working on it?
No. Fully was game one of the Memphis series last year. We had great chemistry from day one. And there was trust there. But I remember like it was yesterday, wasn't that long ago, but I don't know why I'm saying that. But in the fourth quarter when I had it going, there was a shot. I forgot. I think D'Lo might have got the rebound and he outletted it to Bron. And obviously, I'm gonna run to the corner. Bron's got the ball, and I get to half court and I hear him yelling my name. He was like, "Come get the ball." I was like, "Oh shit." I got to make something good happen. I think that's maybe when I hit the three or the jump shot, one of the two. But everything for me, at least, everything went to slow motion at that time. Like I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I can't make him look stupid. He's giving me the ball. Everybody's probably looking at him sideways for giving me the ball, but it ended up working, thank God. And after that, I kind of sit there after the game. It was just like trying to fathom what actually just happened.
Hey, what just happened is that you earned his respect. Being an undrafted pick, the work you put in, LeBron kind of even understanding that some of the key pieces that should be around him is kind of players that have the same archetype as you. You're willing to put in the work. You're willing to put in the grind. You don't have an ego of a co-star or ego as some of these guys who were stars in high school or college. Guys like Cam Reddish. He had a major ego, and that's why right now he's out of the league. Didn't quite understand that he had to come into the NBA, even though he was killing guys like Anthony Edwards out in the amateur circuit. He had to fit into more of a role while being in the NBA in order to earn his keep. But it is what it is. Austin Reaves has a great opportunity not only to cash in on his talent, but also, create a kind of legacy for himself to be remembered in the league, not only playing for the Lakers, but also alongside a generational talent in Luka Doncic.